Recently, I made a video about jerk characters in animated shows, and while most of you agreed with almost all of the characters, one in particular sparked some controversy: Mabel Pines from Gravity Falls. But before I get into this video, I want to talk a bit about the jerk characters video. I noticed that the most common point brought up when people disagreed with me putting Mabel in the jerk category was her age. And well, I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. Maybe you'll disagree with what I'm about to say, but it is what it is. Although I disagree with the idea that many of her actions are justified by her age, because in my mind, a 12-year-old already has enough maturity to understand some things that, from my perspective, Mabel didn't seem to grasp. At the end of the day, even with her young age, that doesn't erase the fact that she did some controversial things. Yes, she learns from her mistakes and improves, which is exactly what happens at the end of the show, after Mabel chooses to live in reality as it is, but she still made questionable choices that weren't okay. So, I want you to understand that I'm ignoring Mabel's age here because I want to analyze exactly how the character behaved in the episodes. Now that we've cleared that up, let's move on to finally evaluate whether or not Mabel is a jerk character. In this video, I'll try to leave it open for you to share in the comments whether or not you think Mabel is a jerk, but at the same time, I want to express my own opinion at the end. Before getting to that, I decided to dig deep in the internet and find the main episodes where Mabel's actions are questioned. That led me to the episodes The Time Traveler's Pig, Deep End, To the Bunker, Sock Opera, Dipper and Mabel vs. The Future, and Weird Magician Part 2. Starting with The Time Traveler's Pig, I won't go into much detail here because I already talked about a lot in my jerk characters video, but if you haven't seen that one, here's a quick summary. Dipper wants to spend the day with Wendy, but for that to happen, Mabel would have to lose Waddles. Because of this, Dipper and Mabel argue about what the right thing to do is. Should Dipper give up on being with Wendy, or should Mabel give up Waddles? But the point isn't really the argument, it's Mabel's behavior after losing the pig. She starts hitting her head repeatedly on a rock because she didn't get what she wanted, and continues doing it forever. Of course, Dipper, being the good brother he is, goes back in time to make sure she gets Waddles. The deep end isn't a big deal in terms of judging Mabel, aside from her being totally love-starved, which is fair, after all. That's literally what the episode is about. But at the end, there's a scene that, even though it's totally a joke in the episode, and I know that, I still have to bring it up. Dipper is going to rescue his brother, who can't breathe out of water, and he has to give him mouth-to-mouth. The problem is, Mabel takes out a camera and snaps a photo of the scene, saying, "Haha, blackmail," and I have to say how wrong that is. Even though it's clearly a joke, it completely gives the impression that Mabel would absolutely do that to get something in the future. Into the Bunker? Well, in that episode we have something pretty concerning, I'd say. But even so, you can kind of understand Mabel's intentions. To show her to think that what she was doing was a good idea, she had to be, at the very least, naive. Basically, during the episode, she tries to force Dipper to confess his feelings to Wendy, which ends up being a bit too much for someone who was dealing with his first serious crush, like Dipper was, including the part where Mabel makes a joke about Dipper's search history in the middle of the episode, which at first doesn't make much sense, but for people who had the money to buy Bill's journal, you can actually see that Dipper had a lot of searches related to Wendy. But the worst part is when Mabel locks Dipper in a room with Wendy and says she'll only let him out once he confesses his feelings to her, and that's wrong on so many levels. Okay, at some point Dipper should talk to Wendy and have that conversation, but did it really have to be like that? Well, in the end, everything turns out fine. We even get an important conversation between Dipper and Wendy. But at the same time, I can't categorize Mabel's behavior here as jerk-like, because you can clearly see that by the end of episode she understands what she did and regrets it. In the sock opera episode, Mabel gets super excited about her new crush of the week and decides to go all in, making a full puppet show to impress him. Meanwhile, Dipper is trying to uncover the secrets of Gravity Falls and needs the password to the laptop. But Mabel completely shifts her focus from helping her brother to chasing this week's romance. And honestly, that's pretty messed up because it forces Dipper to work alone for practically the whole day. That said, I have to admit Mabel redeems herself this time. When Bill takes over Dipper's body, Mabel not only ruins her entire performance but also sacrifices her chance with Gaby to save her brother's life. She fixes everything by the end of the episode. The Future is another episode I talked about in my jerk characters video. I won't go too deep into it again here. But anyway, in the episode, Ford invites Dipper to be his apprentice. This was an amazing moment for Dipper. He was about to live his biggest dream, but Mabel overhears the conversation. And what would you expect from a normal person who just found out their sibling is about to get their dream job? Maybe they'd feel a little sad in the moment, but they'd support their brother's dream. But what does Mabel do? She completely spirals and starts whining to Dipper that she's going to lose him. She even grabs Dipper's backpack by mistake and hands Ford's invention over to Blendin, who was being possessed by Bill, which ultimately triggers the beginning of the end of the world in Gravity Falls. And maybe this is Mabel's most jerk-like moment in the entire show, all of it caused by her jealousy, just because she wanted to have her perfect summer. When I brought this up in the last video, some people argued that she couldn't have known Bill was controlling Blendin. But come on guys, Blendin was sweating, acting suspicious, and asking for the most important thing Ford owned to mess with time. You'd expect anyone to at least be a little suspicious. Oh, but Mabel didn't know the device was dangerous. Guys, just look at that thing. It's literally a weird, glowing object inside a complicated a gadget. Mabel isn't dumb. She knew there was something dangerous about it. In Weird Majdin, Mabel refuses to help save Dipper and the others because she wants to keep living in her fantasy world, literally enjoying her perfect life, while thousands of people are dying because of her. To be fair, by the end of the episode she learns her lesson. Dipper shows her old memories, almost like reality hitting her where it hurts. And even though reality hurts, it's worth living in the real world to enjoy happy moments when they come, instead of locking yourself away in eternal happiness that eventually stops being special. Is Mabel a jerk? One of the most disastrous kids in cartoon history. While I was writing this video script, I realized something: Mabel isn't entirely bad. In fact, it's easy to come here and point out the bad things she did, but to make this video, I had to go looking for the good things too. And man, I didn't even remember how many good things she'd done. Some of those included making a pup for Stan so he could cope with not having one, taking over the mystery shack so everyone could work less, trying to befriend Pacifica, and discovering her good side. Even though Pacifica embarrassed her every episode, literally going to Robbie's house to try to cheer him up, always trying to help Dipper get closer to Wendy, doing everything she could help Stan overcome his fear of heights, and I could dig even deeper. I'm sure I'd find more. My final thoughts are that many times, Mabel is selfish and makes bad choices. However, many of the bad things she does come good intentions that just don't go the way she planned. But in the end, should she be in my jerk characters in cartoons video? Well, I'd say both yes and no. Yes, because she does have some extremely questionable behaviors. And no, because honestly, as much as I admit her flaws, there are way worse characters on that list. A teenager who is literally the definition of selfishness. A princess who hides the fact that she kissed someone else while she was still dating. A grown adult who acts like a literal child. And of course, someone who's just the pure embodiment of jerk behavior. I mean, look at these characters. Do they really belong in the same category as Mabel? Well, I get if you think yes, and I also get if you think no. On that note, I totally understand the people who criticize how I handled this in my last video, but at the same time, Mabel has messed up so many times that it's hard not to feel some kind of frustration with her, even though, yeah, I actually like her as a character. So I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. Tell me down in the comments, is Mabel a jerk character or not? Anyway, thanks for sticking with me this far. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments, is Mabel a jerk character or not? I'll see you in the next video.